In this video, guys, I'm going to look at what is dopamine, how does it affect traders. Stay tuned. Hey guys, a very warm welcome to you. All right, so you've probably all heard about dopamine, you've probably all heard about how as humans we become addicted to dopamine. Now there may be some stories that take it too far, there may be some stories that are really kind of outrageous and scaremongering. So I've done a little bit of research, and like I say, with all these videos, guys, I'm just sharing the stuff that I find out. I don't pretend to know anything about these subjects apart from when it interests me, because I go down to these rabbit holes to find out stuff that's going to help me improve my trading. And when I find something, I share it with you guys, and you guys add to the comment section. Everyone benefits. That's the whole game. So dopamine, done a bit of research on it, had a look. You might have heard people say, oh, we're getting dopamine hits from social media, likes on social media, interacting, should I say, with other people on social media. There's these little things that are giving us this hit. So first of all, what is dopamine? And then we'll talk about how it affects trading. Then maybe in another video further down the line, we'll talk about how we can adjust our trading to make sure that we're not a kind of a slave to this dopamine. So dopamine basically is a feel-good chemical. It goes far deeper than that, but effectively it comes into our brain and it makes us feel good temporarily. And you get dopamine from eating things like food, like sugary foods, salty foods, fatty foods. They're pretty good at giving us a dopamine hit, which is why, very often if you've got, say, a packet of biscuits, you'll have one and then you crave another one and you crave another one and you crave another one. That's partly, obviously there's a more to do with the flavor as well, but partly it's because of the feel-good dopamine that's hitting your brain. They've done studies as well of how chocolate also does that. So there's food, sex, people enjoying sex and getting a dopamine hit from that. Drugs, now that's not necessarily illegal drugs. It could be stuff like nicotine and alcohol, but of course it does also go to illegal drugs, probably things like cocaine, heroin, etc., which apparently has like many hundreds of times the dopamine hit that you get from, a piece of cake. So, which is why many people get addicted to these drugs. And then gambling. And now gambling obviously is very, very similar to trading in a lot of respects. And we'll get to that in a moment. So, basically, one thing to remember, guys, is that dopamine reduces from the same stimulant. So if you were given a surprise biscuit, you ate the biscuit, then if you're given the same biscuit again, you kind of don't get the same hit. A biscuit's not a great example, but something that give a dopamine hit, let's say a piece of cake, for example, right? A little bit more than a biscuit. Piece of cake, decent piece of cake, lots of sugar in it, tastes really good, you get this hit. Now, if you had that again, you start to get used to that dopamine hit. And so to get the same hit, you have to eat more. Now, if you look at kind of hard drugs, if you like, illegal drugs, that's the same with many drug addicts, right? They start off with one hit and they have to take more and more and more to get the same level of high, if you like, as they would as they only started out. So, there's a certain thing where we get tolerant to dopamine and we almost have to have more of a stimulant to receive the same level of craving and satisfaction. And so what that actually means, or the way that I've interpreted that, is this. It's actually the unknown / risk and reward that you're getting. So if you think about a gambler, right? A gambler who he puts £1, let's say, on the spin of a roulette wheel. And he's reasonably excited. It's an interesting thing. He's going to make £1 or £2. If he loses £1, he's going to make £2 out of it. Fine. Now let's say he puts on £10,000. How does that change? Well, of course, as the dose of fear and the potential reward goes up, he's got 10 grand on the line. Obviously, it depends on net worth. If you're worth a couple of billion, 10 grand is the same as someone putting on a tenner. But you get the point. He's feeling far more excited, just as if the an addict is taking a lot more drugs on board his body. So, from a trading perspective, we've got to be very careful, guys. We're human after all. We all have this dopamine in us. Some people have more addictive personalities than others, and there's some studies to show that maybe it's because you've got low dopamine, but whatever, forget about that for now. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We're going to go and check it out, going to read some psychology book or have a look at some psychologists on YouTube. We're not keep on the trading thread here. So from a trading perspective, if you think about your trading as well, do you or do you not get a bit more of a buzz when you're trading size? I know that if you trade small size, you don't get the same kind of feeling. And this is, we shouldn't be getting this feeling. This is kind of the whole point. Whereas if you suddenly traded 50 times your size, you would feel completely different. You would have that feeling of, I'm nervous that it's going to go wrong and I'm going to lose money, but the chance of potential excitement. And this is what happens with traders. And I've talked to two extremes there, but if you look at an active trader who is trading purely for the dopamine hit, they are trading to get this feeling of risk reward, the excitement of potential unknown reward or unknown loss. Now, when it comes into loss, they don't want it because it's almost like, you know, they've got into it based on this artificial feeling, and then when it dawns on them actually losing money, they don't like it. And so you almost get this double whammy. And now when you're trading with more clarity and you're not allowing it, you're trading within your risk parameters and you're accepting the risk, and you don't have this dopamine because you've been accustomed to taking the risk, you're accustomed to trading the size. This is why increasing size should be done very, very slowly, by the way, guys, because you jump up all of a sudden, you're thinking differently. But then it becomes a different way of trading. It becomes, you know, much more professional way of trading, and, you know, as we know as we progress through. So the person who's addicted to trading, who is trading just for the hit of trading, is probably not much different from somebody who's maybe overindulging in any one of these things here. They are getting that receptor to squirt the dopamine into their brain, and they feel good for the actual risk reward they're taking on. Now, obviously, they feel even better when they make a win and they get that surge of kind of a joy, and they feel bad when they lose, but it's actually the unknown factor of it that gives them the urge to do it. Now, we've got to be very careful of this as traders. We've got to be careful we don't go down this trap. And it's easy to stand here and say, oh no, we're never going to do that, I'd never go down this. But we're all human ultimately, we're all made of the same stuff. We're all slightly different, but we're all made of the same stuff. And so we've got to be careful, especially this one for day traders, guys, that you're not day trading because you enjoy the process of clicking the mouse and having that risk on the table more than you enjoy the whole process of the outcome at the end of the quarter, which is just doing your homework, doing the process, as in one of my filters, what I'm looking for in the day, executing and doing it like that, as opposed to just the enjoyment of trading, because that's going to cause you to overtrade, just like somebody to overeat or overindulge in any of those things. You know, one thing, one piece of food, or, you know, one drink isn't the end of the world. But when someone craves the feeling of the whole process, then that's when it becomes addictive. And it's the same with traders, guys. It all comes down to this dopamine thing. You know, if you're there clicking the mouse button, you need to have a little look at yourself and go, am I trading for the hit of the enjoyment of what I'm doing? And actually, in a real world, if I was objective enough, you could substitute that for any one of those things and you'd still be getting the same hit out of it. If that's the case, you're not trading professionally, and to be honest, you have no hope of making it unless you can cut that out. You know, many traders will be overtrading because they enjoy that process. So I think, you know, this is something we can explore a little bit more. I think that, you know, and if you look at kind of some of the process of how you trade and you think of more size, you get more hit, which is why a lot of people suddenly swing out massive size because they want that buzz of the size. You know, the big win as well kind of reinforces that. It's that euphoria, same as the gambling. And it's the unknown, you know, it's the unknown while they're doing it, the unknown of big size. Oh, bang, that big squirt of dopamine. Then the other squirt when they get the big hit, or the down, or if they get the big loss. And so, you know, it really plays onto our kind of primitive feelings in certain ways of trading. We've talked about this before so many times in terms of fear and greed, etc. We know about FOMO and what have you, which all play a part. But this is kind of almost like a chemical truth to it, in that there's certain times when, you know, chemicals are flooding our body which are overruling us. And you can see now how many people fall into the trap of overtrading because they enjoy the process of trading, which we should enjoy trading, definitely we should. But if you're enjoying and getting that little buzz, if you like, off each individual trade, then you're being controlled by the chemical that's pulsing around your veins called dopamine, as opposed to being controlled by the logical, cautious trader who is looking for the longer term rather than the short term hit. And it's the same with any of these things, guys, isn't it? You know, we've talked about this so many times with the health perspective. You know, are you controlled by that, you know, bowl of chips sitting there, or you're thinking, well, I can have a couple, but I want to still be reasonably lean and healthy in 3 months, 4 months time. So I'm going to avoid that short-term enjoyment, if you like, of eating the whole bowl of chips, because actually, I want to be lean. And it's the same kind of thing with trading. We're trying to avoid, if you're that type of personality, it's almost trying to avoid getting caught up in the cycle of wanting to trade to feel good, and saying, well, this is not really my best interests. So that's the kind of introduction, guys, to what is dopamine, how does it influence traders. I'm going to do another video where we talk a little bit more detail about perhaps how we can avoid this, because I know that overtrading is a big thing for many people, and yes, it may not be solely down to this dopamine, it might be down to other factors, I get that, but it's definitely something to be aware of. And we're all human beings, we all should be aware of our blind spots. Very often you might not be kind of involved in this at all, you might not even feel this as a problem, but if we're aware of where this risk can come from, then at least you can take preventative measures if at some point in the future this starts to get you and think, actually, you know what, I'm starting to exhibit some of these sort of symptoms here. All right, guys, take care and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.